Good evening. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the record, Suburbanite and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. For the record, we are missing two council persons tonight, Councilwoman Shama Hader and Councilman Paul Stefanowicz. For those members of the public that are here tonight, this is a combined meeting. We have a work session first, and then we go into the big room for a public meeting, at which time public comment will be taken. We start our meeting off tonight with a couple of presentations. The first one is the Borough Telephone System Upgrade presentation, and we have some representatives of the Board of Education. Yaz Yasami, who's the Business Administrator, welcome. Thank you. Board of Ed IT Coordinator, Bob Caputo.
Here.
Okay, and Paul Sabella, who's the Board of Ed Technical Consultant. Never had too many consultants.
Hi.
Okay, so I'll slide over if you, I don't know how we're going to do this, but.
Well, we were invited here. I don't know what the actual format, Jewel, how you want us to proceed.
Okay. Essentially, just a general overview. I think we've given the council and I guess the general idea. So you do understand, I believe, that we're looking at basically moving into the next generation of telephone equipment and services. Our IT services are presently provided by the Board of Education under a current long-term contract. And one of the stipulations of that contract is when the time arises for the telephone system to be upgraded because of the fact that it will now run over the IT network, that the Board of Education would be the lead agency in pursuing that. The board is now at the point where they have had some presentations from prospective vendors. They've used that information to prepare a request for proposals. And so they can give you an overview of where the board is currently in the process. With regard to the Board of Education, a draft addendum has been prepared so that the borough's needs would be addressed as an addendum. And there is a cost, obviously, associated for the services of the IT technical consultant, and that is the proposal that you have linked to your agenda. Mr. Sabella is the representative who is handling the technical aspect of the project. So I guess Bob or Yaz, if you'd like to just give a general overview of where you are now and the timing. And the cost. I think those are the three.
Well, what Jewel said, we had planned to put the borough as an addendum. However, that didn't quite work out. We went out for the RFP. We did get everything back. However, there was some miscommunication, and the addendum was not put in place. So what we plan on doing is rejecting all the proposals at our next board meeting, which is February 9th. And we will be going out again and solicit the 6 vendors that we had asked. There are 2 systems that we're looking at. One is by ShoreTel and the other one is by Cisco. Both systems are very good. They're voice over internet protocol. As a matter of fact, Jewel saw the demonstrations of each of the systems. We're very happy with either one. We want to see what comes back to us. Like I said, we did get them back. However, we're going to have to go out because we're going to put the borough in as an alternate at this time instead of an addendum. The addendum would have been after the fact that we had sent it out. This will be an alternate because we're going to send it out all together.
Since you're redoing it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So the district is going ahead with this based on the preliminary that we received. Everything's at least 2 out of 3 vendors were under our budget. So we don't see any reason why we're not going to go ahead with the project since it will be under budget. In all likelihood, when we do get the re-proposal or re-bid, however way we want to term it, we believe that it'll be very competitive as far as the proposals come in for cost. So I think Paul, after I speak, Paul I think can probably address some kind of estimate as far as a cost for the borough. But that is our plan. We also have a ROD grant for this phone system that we'll be doing, but that's dealing with school facilities. However, we will be going through state contract, both Cisco and ShoreTel, and the approved vendors are all under state contract. So that's also makes it beneficial. You don't have to go to bid. That's why we're doing an RFP and trying to get competitive proposals.
Are we gonna have another presentation after?
Do you want to?
So just regarding cost, we've had some high-level discussions with the borough regarding the phone system requirements. I think we've got to take a deeper dive into some of the details regarding the features and functionalities that will be included as part of the alternate for that RFP. But as we understand it now, there are approximately 160 phone sets across the borough. That includes this facility as well as the two other buildings that are all communicated across the common network. So the intent would be that there be a phone system platform that would allow for 4-digit dialing between any one of the phone sets within the borough. We really need to look at some of the details in the IT closet, such as power, cabling, and any other infrastructure upgrades that would be required. So we don't really have a budget number yet in mind. However, if I had to, take a range just based on 160 phone sets and the pricing that we've seen on the original RFP for the school district, I would say that probably somewhere in the $225,000 to $275,000 range, depending on what would be required for some of the cabling, some of the power, and some of the network switching, some of the details that we really need to look into. But I just want the ballpark, range in the budget. That's what I would have to report, but we would still need to go back and, we would put a finer budget together, as we got involved.
Now, would that be a system that is separate from, independent of board, or is that an integrated system?
So, as I understand it now, a lot of the borough's network infrastructure is currently all supported out of the data center at the high school. It's based on the power and the generation power that's available. So the borough can certainly leverage some of the software and some of the servers that are being provided as part of the RFP for the school district, which would bring the cost down potentially. In that case, you'd have one phone system platform for the school district as well as the borough. So you could basically dial anyone within the school or the borough. Basically 4 digits would get you to any single phone across those two agencies. If you wanted an entirely separate phone system, there'd be some costs associated with that. You need to purchase the additional licenses and additional equipment. So I think that topic still needs to be further discussed as to if it's 2 separate phone systems or if it's essentially one common phone system across, both.
I think one thing it's important to clarify when you talk about the total cost of $275, because we have a proposal for the design, the technical design and analysis and system portion of it.
Correct.
And that, I think that's estimated at $69,000. So is the $275 inclusive of everything?
No, that would be for what we would expect to come back in the RFP. That would be the cost for the integrator.
Okay. And so
Is that for 2 separate systems or one?
That would be if you went out and procured your own phone system.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. There will be with the borough or without?
In the school. Oh,
The
borough
school,
alone.
without the school?
Yeah, no,
Well, I think we need to-
220 to 200, would that include the borough or not?
That would be if the borough went out and purchased their own.
That would be
phone
if we're a separate system.
Separate,
The
so it's without.
the question I have is there a downside, either from technically or from your perspective or Jules' perspective, to having one system, be us, the borough being part of the school system?
I'll let Bob and Paul field that. That's-
And just another note on top of that is that even though it'd be part of our system, we can logically make it a separate entity. So it's not like, we say it's part of our system.
Well, but I'm saying if to combine the two and have one system, if that saves money,
That would
why
save money.
wouldn't we do that?
That would save money.
So why wouldn't we do that? Is there a reason not to do that?
There's no reason I can see not. to.
So are the proposals going to come back with both options?
We could certainly have it priced with both scenarios. That's certainly possible.
So maybe I can ask a few questions if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
My name is Max Washman. I'm consultant. For 28 years, I was a director with Verizon Communications, specifically phone systems. So I looked through the proposal before over here, and you proposing over here a voice over IP, which is really an IT service. It's not a telephone service. It's an IT service which has to be integrated with the IT files, cannot work separately, and basically the voice messages are digital messages that are decoded in the phone as a voice. So, first of all, I couldn't understand if your RFP over here, does it include the IT system, or is an overlay over your IT system, or is it a complete now system that both data and voice are combined?
It would be over the same network.
So,
It
let
would be
me
a totally
understand.
separate network for just voice.
I'm sorry?
It would be a common network for voice and data traffic, not.
Are you putting
not
out
separate.
the IT system also up for bids, or you already have the IT system and you're looking for a phone overlay?
We're assuming that you have a network infrastructure, right?
Infrastructure is just
So-
cabling, but we're talking about, there is no difference between sending a file, an Excel file, or a voice, from
correct.
your point of view. The only thing, this one has an internet connection. So my question, just to understand a little bit, is that, are you integrating all your data with this telephone, or you keep your old system that you believe it's correct and it's good, and you're putting a voice overlay on top of that?
It's gonna be an entirely new system that works over your network. So
Is
we-
include also the data, yes? That's, I'm very, very clear. The
So you have
files,
an existing data network today, correct?
yes. But the
So we're
management
going-
of the data should be identical to the management of voice. When you plug a terminal in somebody's office, you should have the same IP for voice and the same IP for the computer.
Correct.
And
You connect
they
the
should be able
computer
to
the
take
back of
them
the phone.
any place.
Correct,
So it's gonna be a complete IT system, yeah?
correct.
Now, in an IT system, I'm looking over here presentation, and I apologize for all these details, but I'm trying to make something that makes sense. In the IT system like that, you don't have PRI, ISDN, and stuff like that that shows over here that you quoted on managing and selling. You only have internet connections, because it's all data and all the IP goes over the internet. Did anybody do a study to see, the most important thing besides the phone system is to make sure that you have enough capacity in your internet connection for concurrent, let's say 100 calls concurrent, because you're gonna have 250 phones. You might have like 100 concurrent phones, and you might have 50 files sent at the same time. And you need to have separate internet connections in case the one fails, the other one takes over, and it's a smooth transition. I didn't see any of the data study in here to make me kind of feel good that we have a coherent set of information that we're gonna go, and it's not just, let's see the telephone system, and I didn't see anything regarding the safety, like how we're gonna plan to make sure that we're not gonna have data interruptions. In any of this one, there is nothing that it shows over here. And what it's really, a little bit more of an issue also, is that police and fire, they have a separate, their dedicated system EMS, they cannot fail. And if we integrate them in the system that you want to create, that will create a separate system that kind of will have to purchase, that is integrated with your platform, because that system has so much more security and so much more fail-safe requirements an EMS system. And I didn't see anything like that here. So I'm trying to bring back these ideas that if you will require another RFP to include the borough, can we see that type of information that you include, so we have that feeling that we kind of understand we're doing something that is going to really help our system, the police, the EMS department, and everything else.
Sure, so just to address your first point about the PRIs and the circuits. So what we're doing for the school district is we're planning to reuse the existing phone services.
Then
with
you're
the
not gonna
voice over
have IP
system.
services
You're gonna have IP service throughout the.
internally,
Correct.
but then
And then we're planning for future expansion where you go to
So it's a mixed
essentially
system.
true IP dialing. Correct.
So right now it's a mixed system, local IP, telecom services
Correct.
outside.
That's, we talked about that and figured that's a whole totally separate
Okay.
project to go pure IP. So the purpose of this RFP was to have an IP system that was essentially
Then do
ready.
you have a needs requirement? Because now that we have just an internal communication IP for $250,000, the question is, what is your need? What additional functions you're gonna bring, since the interface is gonna be telecom? What is the additional internal function that you're gonna give Jules that she doesn't have today, that is gonna make her say, yes, I need to spend the $50,000, $60,000? That, you know, just because it's IP, fine. But what's the functionality that's gonna make Jules say, oh yeah, I like that?
There's some features that are available, such as soft phones, where you can basically use your phone on any device, right?
Yes,
So-
Max, let me answer the
Yeah,
question.
okay. Can you provide that to us?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So these
that's
are
the
all
question.
things that we've gone through with the school district, and you'd have the same features and functionality available as well. So, soft phones, the ability to use your phone anywhere you have an internet
Yes.
connection, the ability to have your voicemail available, essentially right on your email.
Yeah.
So those are the basic features of functionality. There's also some safety features we're also looking at for the school district, in terms of essentially codes being,
VPNing into the system, are we gonna have that?
getting into the,
To be able to work from home and be like being in the office?
from a phone standpoint.
From the digital point of, from the play terminal. I wanna be, you know, it's a snow day, cell phone is gonna allow Jill to stay home and get the phones as if she was in the office.
Mhm.
But she won't have the file, the computer. She has a laptop and all the files are on a Z drive.
Mhm.
Can she get those so she can work from home? The advantage of being able to VPN into the system
I
and
think
be able to do
VPN
it.
would be outside of the scope of the voice system.
But if it's an integrated system,
You'd be able to have your phone available, right, anywhere you have an internet connection. But the VPN connection you're talking about would be totally separate from the phone system architecture.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
So from the math, you were talking about 160 stations, 225,000, that's about $1,500 a station approximately, roughly?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly,
For the
right.
phone set, the software, and then some of the infrastructure items I had mentioned earlier, the cabling, some of the power, some of the network switching, those are the things we really need to look into after we're engaged, and that'll determine exactly where the budget would need to fall.
So just a real simple question, someone answers the phone here at Borough Hall, they'll be able to switch a call directly to the DPW,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, everything will be fully integrated, which it
Everything.
isn't now. And in terms
Which
of.
it isn't, right, right,
Which,
right.
and in terms of where it is now, I really appreciate you wanting to give us, we don't even have, we barely have basic functionality. I mean, other than a telephone, that's basically it.
That's why we
We
wanna
don't even
see-
have caller ID in the real sense. You can see a number, but you really, if you don't recognize that number, if you haven't memorized it, you don't know who's calling.
So, no, that's why we want to see the difference, so we can add or subtract features to make sure that we have the real thing that you need. And that's why I was asking if we have a needs-based assessment, so say, okay, this is what you need, and this is how we, I'm also very interested, how do you go interface with the EMS system? Because that's very
If I can ask a question, I'm the chief of police. I have 5 POTS lines coming in. We were analog, we went to POTS, I guess for reliability, I guess in power failures. How is those 5 lines gonna integrate into the system? Because obviously these phones are gonna be in my department also too.
Yeah, I understand you have 5 POTS lines, and I believe there are also 2 dedicated T1s for
Correct,
911
right,
as
right.
well. So yeah, I mean, those will interface with the phone system, and essentially you'll have the ability for those POTS lines to appear at any one of the extensions you
So
require.
I'm still gonna retain those if we look this, I'm not gonna lose them.
No.
So I'll have both.
Correct.
Okay.
So like I had said earlier, any of the phone services coming in, they're gonna basically stay the same. Right, we're not changing any of that. The only changes are gonna be within the actual borough's network itself.
Then we're not gonna be able to take advantage of any of the savings of the costs of the really IP systems for inside and outside calls.
That is something that certainly should be explored, that we're not proposing to do right now. We just feel that it's too cumbersome to change a phone system and change all of your dialing plans all at the same time. We feel that first change the phone system, make sure that it's operational, and then explore.
Yeah, because most of the phone systems, IP systems that are installed, their basic claim to fame is, besides the functionality, is now they can use IP telephony connections, which are 1/10 of the cost of the telephony connection. And then in 3-4 years, basically it paid by itself, because now long distance, local and stuff like that, it's really dirt cheap. Most of them are gonna give it to you as much as you want, you know, and that's not gonna be correct.
That would
Not in the first phase.
Not as part of the first phase, correct?
Correct, and Yaz, you may want to comment, as Yaz pointed out, we have had, some presentations, and the board has been very clear. Believe me, we've seen a lot more functionality than we're actually planning to bring into the system in this first phase.
And Joel, from your perspective, is there any reason why we shouldn't consider the one system, we're all in the same system?
I don't think there's any reason that we shouldn't consider it. I mean, and Bob would know the technical issues, I guess, the best. I mean, isn't that pretty much equivalent to what we have now? We're on the same IT network.
Right, but your phone systems are completely separate. We can make you part of the system that we're gonna be on, which will save you money, but we can logically separate the town.
Right,
Yeah.
So you're like a separate system,
but within the whole,
but
within the system.
on the same
Exactly.
equipment we're hosting.
Right, well, I think that makes the most sense.
Because that
Not
was
only
one
that,
of the
but-
things that we
yeah.
discussed when we had the presentation, is that the board and the borough have different notification protocols during the course of the day. We're not changing classes,
Drills,
drills,
graduation drills.
lockdowns, things of that nature.
Right.
So it can't be totally unified.
Right.
Yeah, but
But
from
still,
functionality, that's
you
gonna
don't
help
need
a lot.
two totally separate systems, which
Yeah.
would be the most expensive.
And the cost is gonna help a lot, because you're gonna now host your servers somewhere on your board of it, You're gonna back them up, you're gonna have power backup and stuff like that. We would not have to do the same in the borough over here. We
Correct.
just basically use your backup, and we're gonna have a connection coming from there, so we don't have to lose that. We only lose the telephone the most we're gonna lose, right? But we can go then in the cell phone and be able to connect to your,
Right, and we can put failover stuff in the system also, that you can grab dial tone from our building if for some
Exactly.
reason that.
it
The borough
makes a
loses
lot of
out.
sense to do that.
So there's a lot of.
Yeah,
good
a lot
features.
of savings on that one. Would you, can we have a list of the functionality, please, given to us?
Probably have in the RFP.
Yeah, we can certainly.
Sure, thank you so much.
One last
Dan,
question.
and then Mark?
How does that affect, so I'm looking at our last year's budget, we spent roughly 60 on telephone, just says telephone. Will that disappear now, eventually, when we move over into the IP part? Making
No.
calls
that's-
outward?
It's, this phase 2 is not implemented.
That's what I
Correct.
mean, in phase 2, will that
Yeah,
lower
you're not
that
gonna
cost?
recognize any savings on
The calls.
on the monthly bills that you're getting from your phone provider at phase 1. That would be a phase 2
Okay, so eventually,
implementation. Correct.
eventually.
And you're gonna, would we be able to show us the plans that you have, on it? No, that's right, I'm sorry. Okay,
Dan? Mark?
The timing, what's the scheduling like, Yas, for discussion, implementation, all that?
Well, we're going to, as I said, we're going to reject the proposals on February 9th.
Oh,
And
okay.
then we'd like to be able to get out to the vendors as quickly as possible with the new RFP, with the alternate being the borough. And probably 2 alternates with the borough. One, if you still want to, a standalone, separate system, and then one that's integrated with us.
Yeah, I think the council's very clear, we'd like to see
You want
both.
to do 2, so
yeah.
that's the way
And
we'll go about it.
specifically the EMS, very important how to integrate with EMS.
You know, and that's gonna be something that Paul's gonna have to tackle and make sure we get all the information, put that into the RFP. Now, as far as the rest of the timing is concerned, we do have a meeting on March 15th, and we have a meeting on April 5th. I believe we talked, and April 5th is still a date that we can award and still be on our schedule to make sure the phones are up and running the 1st of September. I mean, we want to have everything, we want to be testing everything probably, you know, probably in the second week of August.
Correct,
Start
late July,
testing
early
everything.
August, yep.
Okay.
So, you know, we're ready to go. We're already starting to look at cabling. We're doing it internally. We're looking at cable the schools. Not
Do you
all
have
of
the
them.
plans for the cabling for the town hall and the other facilities?
That I don't.
That's gonna come with.
That's going to come.
That's-
when
that's-
they-
that's part of this
That's gonna be
proposal.
part of
Go in
it, okay.
depth and
Right.
walk through
All
that.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you've talked about timing on your end, on timing on our end. Our next public meeting is February 9th. So I'm assuming that you would hope that we would be authorizing the resolution for the technical design part, because we have to pay our share of that.
And that's something that you're going to have to work out with Paul as far as timing is concerned, then, to be able to get the information so he can put it in the RFP for the, as the alternate.
Yeah, we'd like to issue the RFP, you know, soon after that February 9th meeting.
And one thing we want to make sure, that once the system is done, and we have the servers have all the interfaces that when we want to drop the telecom and go through Gigi or whatever it is, we don't have to start all over again. And the software interface to be able to interface to those specific ports.
Yeah, that'll be built into the system.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
So I'll be following up with Susan to identify the funds. the sort-
And
funding
give us the
source.
functionality. Julie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you
All right,
can
thanks.
provide that.
We'll provide that very soon, yeah, we have that available, because we've already written the RFP, we
Right,
wrote
as
in
far
the
as
features and functionality for the
Okay.
school district, so we can provide that.
So should I expect that from you or from Yaz, or?
I can send it over to you.
Okay, and just to be clear, you'll notice that the proposal makes reference to the board's architect. They're basically the overall project manager.
Yes, we go through our architect. The architect has a phone consultant, which is Paul, TM Technology, and that's the way we go through it.
Right.
Yeah, on top of that too, it's a good time, like he was talking about, when he comes in and gets in depth with your network data switches as well, because it's all the way running over the same network. You're running switches, I know for a fact, that we phased out 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, we should get rid of all the
So,
garbage.
Yeah, so it's a
and
good
go on the
time
servers
behind, and if we're going out for an
yeah.
RFP, it's a good
Absolutely.
time to get all that upgraded as well.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a technical question though.
He's a techie.
Here's the thing.
If you integrate the systems you're talking about integrating systems in phase one? Because wouldn't you then, all the POTS lines then would be over by you, and then the borough's phones will just be voice over IP, because you wouldn't have the interface to the copper here, right?
Well, you'll use your copper POTS lines here with the phone system. We can fail it over to our POTS lines with the new system.
Yeah.
So
So then.
you'll still keep your
how's it-
existing POTS lines.
How's it integrated then?
You'll have a gateway essentially in each building as a redundant measure, so that you'll still have your POTS lines here, but you can fail over to the school's POTS lines if you ever lost
I'll
yours.
explain to you how that, basically you're gonna have
I
this.
understand the basics.
Not now.
You guys can discuss it
The
afterwards.
voice over IP is going to be on the same subnet as their as data.
That's all that
We'll be
matters.
running over the same
Subnet.
data network, different subnet technically, but it's over the same.
Over the same lines though.
Data switches. Yeah.
It's about the same.
Like a
Yeah, because we'll
virtual-
be doing, quality of service so that the voice has priority over data.
And just
So
to
you
show
don't
how,
copy
how
voices.
integrated we are, the timing on this is very important, because we're at a point with the new Public Works building that we needed to be able to confirm what type of system we were going to be building in. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Thank you so much, Carl.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Paul.
too.
Next, Andy, we have Larry Morgan from Tilson here.
Yes.
Okay, and our borough engineer, Andy Hippel.
Andy, you can sit here.
So something that we all thought was gonna be very simple, isn't that simple?
I mean, I think it's simple. We looked at, you know, the Verizon proposal, and just as a disclosure, we do, at Mazer, we do a lot of cell work, so we work for a lot of the cell companies. It's a Verizon microsite, or microsites they're proposing. The purpose behind it is they have a tower in your town, or towers that surround your town plus the one in your town, and they can't provide seamless coverage. So their new method of getting past this issue is to put up these microsites, which are little antennas, 16 and 24 inches high. There's a box mounted to a utility pole, and they put them throughout your town where they need to get seamless coverage to service your Verizon users. Couple of points. I think they've already told you, as far as zoning and board submissions, it's not required. The state's gotten by this big hurdle of requiring them to go to your boards or your zoning review, so you don't have any oversight there. They do need electrical connections for these sites. They do need a structural review, so they need a building permit and electrical
For
permit.
each installation.
For
on
every
pole.
installation, so you have a little bit of oversight over them. Not that you can do much with it, but you know where they're going, and at least you have that oversight. At least in our opinion, their existing tower should stay. You should ask them that question. I know they're here, so that's a good question for them. I don't believe, though I'm not your attorney, that you can collect compensation for these installations. It's just like PSE&G and Verizon, your other lines. They put a utility in, which is a benefit to the public, so they don't compensate you for that.
But they pay for the building permits, correct?
They have to pay their,
Yeah.
whatever permits they have to pay for.
Can I ask a question about the building permit, sir? If you're taking out an electrical permit, the objective of taking out a permit is to get an inspection, so you can get a sign off on the permit. How the hell are they gonna do that inspection? You having cherry pickers around for the electrical inspector to come?
You know, that'll be Bob. Bob's gonna have to make that determination, so they would come to Bob Burns. It's like anything else, when somebody does or installs something high in a building or on a tower, Bob has to perform an inspection. If he can't perform the inspection, then Bob could hire somebody to come in and do that inspection for him and certify it for him.
Well, actually,
The same with the-
Uniform Construction Code says that you have the authority to have an engineer sign off on it.
Absolutely, yeah, and Bob would have, obviously Bob would have the ability to call on us. We could go do it for him, but that's Bob's discretion. We can't tell him what to do. He has to decide whether he wants us to help him out or someone else to help him out and do an inspection if he can't do it. The other point we have is, which, you know, we have a little concern about, though I don't think it's a major concern, is access to these sites. Once these sites are up and running, if Verizon, your regular phone lines, or PSE&G, your regular electrical lines, has to service them, they have the equipment, the power, they have the proper traffic control, they have the proper methodologies to either close a lane or work within a lane of a borough roadway. I don't know if these guys do. You should talk to them about that. There should be some oversight from your chief of police or your police department if they're going to come out and maintain a site. If they're on River Edge Road and they're going to block a lane, well, there's certain requirements to block a lane, so they need to meet those requirements for traffic control when working on these sites.
Well, would that process vary from what the process is today? When Verizon is working on a pole today,
It's a little bit, I think, it's a little bit different because PSE&G and Verizon, the landlines, they have procedures and methods in place. They may have these procedures in place, but you should discuss it. I mean, it's something they should talk about right
So
now.
you said there's going to be a meter on whichever pole they use for the...
There'll be a little box on, there's a box there, they have to connect the electrical lines, but yes.
But a meter.
No,
I don't know the answer to that question.
How is that working? Will there be meters?
It really depends on the utility that owns the pole.
And how you make the deal with them?
That is correct.
I see.
Yeah.
well, the average installation, what is it from a visibility standpoint? Are you gonna have a huge, like a transformer up there? Is it a small
It's very,
thing?
it's very
Is it something that-
It's shaped like a transformer, but much smaller.
Well, what's much smaller?
18 to 24 inches in height.
2 feet high.
And
it's like a small antenna with a round cylinder.
And the engineer said that these are only going where you have issues with coverage.
that is correct.
As far
It's to enhance the
So-
signal strength.
But, you know, are we gonna have this in 30 different locations, 130 different locations?
You good?
I don't know. They're aware of different areas right now where the signal is weak, and it's because we use our phones more for data than for voice. And it's that data use that soaks out that signal.
Does anybody in the room have Verizon cell?
Yeah, of course. Can I answer?
Well, hang on for 1 second, let me get the answer to the question you didn't let me ask. From a Verizon customer perspective, how is the coverage in this
It's
thing?
bad.
It's bad.
It's
When
bad.
people
Depends where you
drive
are.
on 9W,
It's varies.
East Clinton Avenue,
It's terrible. It's
disastrous.
terrible.
people lose phone.
Well,
I've heard this all
I
the
know
time.
when somebody
You said-
puts
you
up,
said that was Clinton, excuse me.
when somebody puts up an antenna, a big tower, other companies piggyback off that. Are we going to find other companies piggybacking off of what you're doing?
So, no, so I'll answer from a different perspective. Every single cell company, and they're consolidating a lot, has the same type of plan. Whether they institute it here or not is up to them. They may come in too. The companies have distance requirements, so ideally, it's kind of like the race to win. Whoever gets on the pole first is there first.
Well, I have a question for you. So Pete, let me just say
Yeah,
one
go
thing.
ahead now and tell me
So
if that's not true.
your question is about they're not sharing the antenna, they're sharing the pole.
Right.
So AT&T may come later and want to put one on the
They-
pole
they
also.
could, yeah.
Let me just
Just
say,
like a monopole.
no, first of all, that's not, the poles are owned jointly by Verizon and PSE&G. And Verizon has, and in order to do that for any other carrier, they have to get the right of way to get that done.
Correct.
So right now they don't have it, so in order to do that, the Verizon mini antennas or micro antennas or something so small that gets on it, nobody piggybacks on that antenna. If they go and now ask PSC&G for right of way and the town for right of way, it's a completely different application. It's not a piggyback, it's based on their, and their capacity of paying for those antennas.
Right.
So it has, they're independent in a sense.
Verizon Wireless has attachment agreements with Verizon Telephone
Yeah,
and PSE&G.
exactly.
Okay, so that's already in place.
That is
And any other company that wanted to do a similar type of installation would need to make those arrangements.
That is correct.
Right, the answer to your
And-
question is yes. You might see other cell companies who come and make those agreements with those private companies which are outside your jurisdiction to put these on your poles. That is the goal of all the cell companies.
And these antennas, or whatever you want to call them, they're not as obtrusive as some of those solar panels.
No, they're
They're
not.
No.
You would barely, you
No,
wouldn't
you know
even know
what?
they're there.
You're gonna know it's there, as will I, and pretty much that's it. They're very unobtrusive, and it's called a small cell for a reason. That's exactly it. Oftentimes, it's just a 500-foot enhancement.
Mhm.
Sometimes it goes up to as much as 2,000 feet. But it's that magic word, seamless coverage, is what they're looking for.
But at this point in time, you have no idea as to the number of these installations you would ideally like to do in Tenafly.
No, because I'm not privy to where the signal is strong and where it's weak, and how many of these would be needed to.
I don't find that curious that
Yeah, I don't-
we're having this discussion when we don't know if they want to put 5 up or 500.
Well,
I
it's,
think that's, to me,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, I want, just, again, because I'm your independent guy.
you sure?
I am. This is the great, again, this is the new technology, this is
Yeah.
the great race for all the cell companies. They're all doing it. They don't necessarily have a plan of what they're doing yet. What they're all trying to do is get the permission, get the ability to do it, and as they need coverage, they're gonna add them. If Verizon gets to the pole first, T-Mobile and Sprint and Nextel may not be able to use that pole, so they may have to look for another option. These are very economical ways for the cell companies to do it. This is happening all over the country, so they're going around trying to pick off various towns to get the approvals to be the first ones here. It is a benefit to the town. You use Verizon, it'll give you better coverage, so it is a benefit. I don't believe the town should get in the middle of the race.
Okay.
You're not getting asked by another
I'm
company,
not
you shouldn't get in the middle of the race.
But since you're independent, do you think we should tie this in with FiOS? They want to put this stuff in, let them bring FiOS in?
They're separate
Different company.
companies. Yeah, I know, it's odd enough they're separate.
I wish we could.
I wish we could.
I wish we
I was
could.
only kidding. Tony, you had your hand up?
Andy, why are we even talking about this? Because we don't own the poles, Borough Tenafly shouldn't be getting involved into what's being put on top of the telephone pole.
Except
We
that
lost
the
our
statute
shirts
is-
and monetary-wise to be playing that game years ago. We don't
Yeah.
want to do that again.
There's a statute.
Yeah, they have
that
to ask.
says-
Yeah,
They
there is.
have to ask.
They're in your right of way.
And since they have to ask, we need to understand
This
what's
is-
being asked of
This
us.
is
Technically,
this is
we
one
can't
of
say no.
those questions that really has already been, they're going to do it.
Of course they're gonna do it.
So, the discussion here really isn't, are we going to allow them or not? The
Correct.
discussion is here for us to understand what's going to happen. That's
Right, because like, for instance, one of my concerns, Larry, is like, if you have to get building permits, how much lead time are we gonna get? Because what I'm hearing is that we're not going to get, maybe all the locations at once.
That is
And I don't want people just constantly running in here and like literally standing over Bob's shoulder.
If I may address that, Jennifer Canary from Price Meets, Strowman and Dominio, counsel for Verizon Wireless. We've been into a few of these towns with this proposal, and as you mentioned, it's, we're not here for the approval, but just to kind of address getting consent to do this. We do have, I know there's been a concern or questions raised in certain towns with how do you keep track of it? One of the ways is obviously if you have somebody that would be keeping a running list of that based on the permits that do come in. And that's something that would be a cost that, you can't charge for the purpose of having the actual SNN up, but you could provide, that cost could be, put onto Verizon so that you have that ability to keep track of the number, because I know that, again, it's a kind of an unlimited number. At the moment, we can't say for sure until we've done the actual analysis of these deficiencies.
How should we expect to receive these requests?
applications.
To how they would come in, just like any other
Like a regular building,
project.
they'll come in.
They'll be handled like any other.
Yeah.
You're not looking for.
There's nothing,
Nothing
yeah,
special.
we're not looking
Same
to,
time frames.
to just hand them in and get the stamped approval
Or-
right away. We're
no.
looking to go through the same process as any other,
Between the two of you, have you done these installations in any other
in any other towns.
nearby?
We just, on the 20th, what's the date today?
25th.
On the 20th, we just installed in Eatontown.
Nothing in Bergen County?
We're currently going before boroughs such as Fort Lee, yourself. I forget the other town, I have to go in 2 weeks as
Okay.
well, but they're in Bergen County.
But they're in the same part of the process as we are.
Correct.
That is correct.
Mark, please.
Are all the installations going to be pole mounts, or will you ever have to do ground mounts with these? Depending on the scenario.
With PSE&G, they're all pole mounts. There's no ground disturbance at all.
None
I mean,
at all.
None at all.
Okay.
Yeah, they
This
can- they can-
application is program. If they're gonna have another one, they're
Well,
gonna have
that's
another.
what I'm asking, yeah.
I
Dan?
mean, they're kind of unlimited, so they could building mount. There's a lot of things they can do. They just need permission from the entity to mount it. So, and that permission may come with more approvals from you.
Right, no, but my point
This is
about
the-
the
this is
ground
the easy
mount
one.
would be a whole, totally different.
Totally
it should
separate.
be
Yeah, we
taking
would
up
be
more
back
space,
here
right.
for a total, and it would be under, under the statute specifically in a public right of way, and it's located on the poles.
Dan?
Chief, this one's for you. The dead zone up on the hill, is that radio or cell for your guys?
A little bit of both, but definitely more so radio right now. But
Okay.
it's not the hell, there are pockets and depressions that we're having a problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's mostly
and that's
Tony,
being
did you
looked
have
into.
something else, please?
right now.
What you can do though, with concerning the permits, is when I worked for DCA, we had many instances like this. We just got one permit and we listed them all on the one permit. So if you have 150 of them, you don't want to be filling out 150 electrical permits, I mean, for the love of God.
So you have like a
We gotta
max
save some
number of
trees here, so, that's one way of doing it. But that's up to Bob to make that decision, and it works effectively, so.
We would work directly with your building and electrical people as to how best to process.
Make it as simple as possible.
That's correct. Now, you mentioned Clinton Street.
Clinton Avenue.
East Clinton.
Top Clinton Avenue,
Clinton
9W.
Avenue.
Hmm?
What was the other one? Somebody else you mentioned?
just
Well, yeah,
random
Route 9W?
places.
Like
So
the
you
front
also
of my
have
house
the
is
top
a
East Clinton Avenue.
balls.
Oh, yeah, whole-
Yeah, it's kind of
You could be driving down East Clinton Avenue on the phone. Shouldn't be on the phone, but on the phone. We shouldn't say it with the chief.
No, you're on your Bluetooth.
That's what I meant to say, chief.
Hypothetically.
You'd lose it, right?
Hypothetically.
I don't want to make this, I think we've got all the answers we need and maybe more, so, thank you.
Thank you very
Mayor,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
No
Okay.
problem.
Good luck,
So
guys.
we'll be
Thank you.
just expecting to hear from you at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're gonna come back and say, we're gonna bring Fios to Tenafly? Yes?
We'll,
Would you like a
bring that up to,
theoretical question?
bring that up
Why
to
isn't
change.
Fios here?
Because that's a
Because
decision.
Kid
that
Washington's
Verizon
got the
makes.
monopoly.
Verizon has made a decision not to spend a penny more on
Thank you,
Fios.
everyone.
That work.
Really?
Bye-bye, it's nice meeting you.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
You would
Do they
think
have any
you'd
alternatives?
don't be so quick to want to move to Fios, because we do still receive franchise fees from Cablevision, and we just got
We're
a
still gonna
very
get it.
healthy check.
But I'm not
Yes,
ruling it
but
out,
it,
yes.
it's based on subscribers, so if the subscribers drop,
Fios
then
is
the
the
fee
same.
drops.
We've
Fire
had the problems
suppression.
up on top of the
Theoretical. Let's say
Maybe
these
cell
many towers
phone
go up in the
charge.
hill.
Isn't there something you could do with that?
That's an
And
Okay,
you
let's
sell
move-
better.
In some cases.
Is that?
It's
can
not
we-
gonna affect the radio.
Well, can we transition to a different
We're actually,
system for them?
we're actually
charge people.
following up on that. In fact, in my report, I make reference to the fact that we will have a proposal for the whole public safety communications issue
Cool, cool, cool.
for the next,
All right, next we have
committee of the
the
whole.
mid-block crossing, the crosswalk, which is desperately, I don't mean to prejudice the
No,
discussion,
you're
but
right, you're right.
desperately needed in front of our driveway there.
So we were authorized by council, we did a mid-block crosswalk report or warrant analysis. We did the report, it was dated October 14th. Everybody has a copy of it. You look at a few warrants to see if you actually warrant a crosswalk as part of the DOT manual for installing a crosswalk. You are crossing a county road, so if you decide to move forward, what we're here tonight to say is if you decide to move forward, we have to request of the county, and this is the report that would go to the county. If you've been at the intersection of the driveway and River Edge, a lot of pedestrians cross there. A crosswalk is needed there. It's a long cross. Right now, there is a handicap ramp as you pull out on the right side. That ramp would need modification. Another one would be installed across the street to the right of the fire hydrant, and we'd put in the appropriate crosswalk, flashing beacons, and signage and striping. Based on the report, it's clear that you warrant a crosswalk. You should have a crosswalk there. What we would like tonight from the council and the mayor is to ask permission to go to the county to share the warrant analysis and make a request for them to review it, concur a crosswalk is required, and once they concur, then this council can pass the appropriate ordinance to install a mid-block crosswalk. And it may not necessarily be mid-block, but it's at our driveway, it's at an intersection, so I think for safety purposes or to be conservative, we believe we should call it mid-block because it's a driveway, not a roadway.
Okay.
Well, as we-
I would urge the council to move this forward.
Can I ask a question, please? You have asked for basically light signals could go on with a crosswalk, yes?
Push button, yeah, right? Yeah.
Right.
They're gonna be push button, light, or flashing signals?
They would be traditionally. Well, there's two ways you can do a crosswalk. Is you could put a sign up at both locations on both sides with the flashing ambers on top, LED ambers, or you could put a crosswalk sign, the pedestrian crosswalk sign, and make that an LED
Border, the perimeter.
inlaid sign, the perimeter, maybe the person inside of it that flashes also. It's push button activated, so it only comes on when it's push button activated. We recommend the push button and to be about a 30-second time frame. So when it comes on, people are expecting a pedestrian in there. You want it, the idea is to bring attention to the pedestrian, not a flashing light all the time.
Okay, that's exactly
That
what
makes the most
yeah,
sense.
Exactly.
So that when you push that button, the light won't actually go red for the drivers, will it?
No,
It's just going to flash. It's amber's yellow, so
Warning.
it'll be warning.
It's
So
not a traffic
you know the idea is to train the driver, and New Jersey has done a pretty good job at this. When you see a flashing amber, whether it's the sign LED that's in the sign or the ambers above and below, you realize that, hey, I just need to look for a pedestrian. There must be somebody here, whether they're there or not. It makes you more aware.
I mean,
That's the idea.
technically, they're supposed to stop even without the light. If there's somebody
Right.
waiting to cross, they're supposed to stop.
don't.
Yeah, but
This
they don't.
this
People
gives them a
don't.
little more notice.
You have two instances why we recommend them here. You have a long travel path and a high number of pedestrians.
I think
at
nobody,
certain times. Especially.
I think everybody here concurs with what you're recommending.
Second question.
Yeah, please.
Can we leave the thing in the middle, the yellow line, what's it called?
Yeah,
The sign.
the-
the-
In-street pedestrian, stop pedestrian signs?
Yeah, that one. Leave one there permanently?
I'm not
Not in the
opposed to
winter
putting
time,
that.
you can't.
What's
Well,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as an added feature, I'm not opposed to it. It's something, I mean, you
It's
know,
wide enough, right?
we've identified this area as
Yes.
something as needing it. There's something, but we are concerned about the volume of traffic and just
Yeah.
anything that we can make it as safe as possible, I'm not opposed.
Right, one of the things we're going to look at doing the details when we stripe it is to stripe the gore in the center a little bit wider because you have the room. So if a pedestrian got halfway across and they felt in danger, at least they have an area to stand and stop for a second.
It's almost like a painted island, right?
It'll be painted island. We can't put a physical island in because you got emergency services and fire trucks
Yeah.
going through. It's just a mess. But we can do a painted island.
We often put out those traffic calming signs when we're having a
They're great signs.
special
They're great.
event.
They're great.
But I think to
Great
leave
signs.
it out there
Right now, yeah.
permanently.
Some towns do it, and some kind of work, like Broad Ave, Leonia, right in front of Dunkin' Donuts.
Yep.
People stop there.
Absolutely.
Like absolutely no stop there. I guess I don't know if it's people got pulled over all the time.
Yeah, I
don't know
think
what
that
the
police department's doing an enforcement
Yeah.
campaign here.
They're covering the schools and the donut shops. Okay, thank you.
So I can make a
Yeah,
request to the county?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Please proceed.
Now, Andy's gonna be here because we're going into close.
So we should hear something by next year. We're going to the county now. Yeah.
Our anticipation is soon.
Sorry.
After the elections. After, we'll have to we'll wait for Mark to be part of the council.
Yeah, I'll say this is a pretty easy one.
This is your issue, Mark.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Okay.
Be careful what you wish for.
Next.
Are we gonna jump into closed session up ahead, right?
We are?
Yes.
Then we're going back.
That's what they told me.
You've been misinformed. Okay, go ahead.
And we're adding, we're going to add something to closed session, right?
I think you discussed that with Lizette, right?
Right, on the, Lisette,
Yes.
on
We're gonna add this
on the
up.
lease issue, right?
So for the public's record, we're going to go into hopefully a short closed session. Then we're going to come back and pick up. So you obviously you can go home if you want to, but my suggestion is if you're interested, stick around. It should not be too long a closed session.
We're not gonna have another closed session after
No.
that.
No,
this is
no,
it.
we'll do it now.
One and done.
Okay. Resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the Mayor Council, Borough of Tenafly, going to close executive session, discuss the following matters. One is it relates to the litigation of Lannon versus Borough of Tenafly. It's a federal court litigation. And just want to give you an update on that and discuss some things that came up. And the second is something new. It just came up. It relates to the swim club bankruptcy and some discussions I had with the trustee that really relate to litigation and really are fodder for closed session. Minutes will be taken of this meeting and released to the public time. The matters are resolved after this closed executive session. Mayor Council will reconvene in this committee room to resume the work session.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to ask the public to step out for a few minutes. Hopefully not too long.
The chief is a participant. That's right.
Okay.
Yep. So in terms of the skate park, we're in favor of that. That will take place.
That's a good
Okay.
idea.
The third one, okay, that was the one where there was some clarification.
On the
Okay.
nonprofit
Yes.
using it to.
Right. The request, it appeared initially to be from a specific group that was asking if they could do fundraising. But we got further clarification, and it turned out, as we indicate here, there's nothing that prevents any of the affiliated groups currently from utilizing the facility.
Right.
The request actually came from a particular board member who basically wants to see us utilize the McCandless Room as a rental property, a rental business.
Not knowledgeable on the current use. You know, there's really not, the use for these facilities could not be more intensive than it is already.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no room for more, so.
Yeah.
Are you talking about me asking for that?
No.
No, somebody else?
No, this was,
Okay.
Questions I raised about.
Yeah.
Yours is addressed for later,
Yeah,
further
somehow.
down.
we'll get to you later.
Okay, with regard to the cutting of the grass, basically, Matt Mercurio is acting as an intermediary between the Board of Education and Tenafly Little League. And yes, the Little League does spend approximately $16,000 a year on field maintenance now. But they indicated that they're not necessarily looking to zero that out. They would just like to spend less.
Well,
And they can do that if they get some further assistance in maintenance. They wanted to direct it to the board because, you know, we're known to them, but the property is owned by the Board of
I
Education.
served as the president of the Little League for many years, and the Board of Education, the grounds crew always, all they're Little Leaguers were looking for, I think, is to have the grass mowed.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to do that, and I think what might have changed is when the field became a turf field, now all of a sudden the mowers aren't out there as much as they used to be.
Right.
But Tom's a good man, you know, I'm sure that.
And he said that he would help. So, essentially, we've, I think, responded to everything, and Matt will update the rec board at the
Okay.
next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Bash, when we were discussing item number 3, when it appeared to be related to fundraising, asked, I believe, if the McCandless Room could be used for political fundraising purposes. So I've given you just one sentence that's kind of like at the heading of the ordinance, but I've also included that chapter in that section, and as you can see, it's very, very definitive about that fact that that is a prohibited use on any public property. Not even just on it, even by it. So I don't know, Max, if you have any follow-up questions
The
to
question
that.
is why? I'm just trying to figure out the logic.
If you look at the
Can I-
statute, there's the purpose, and it's spelled out very, very clearly
Yeah,
in section B.
So that says that, you know, there is conflict of interest. What conflict?
There's the
Well,
potential
Can I maybe
and the
raise a
appearance.
point? It's a state level
Sure.
issue.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, part of the, remember in 2015, the state legislature and the governor signed new regulations into effect that regardless of what any municipality does, you can't do
Anyway,
political fundraising on public property. So it's kind of out of our hands here.
Okay, is that it, Jewel?
I believe so. Hold on, let me just see. Yes, and then I just want you to take note at the bottom of page 2, those are the dates for our our major annual events.
I was going to bring this up for the good of the order, but since we're talking about Independence Day and the fireworks, I just wanted to give you folks a heads up and ask for any comments before we make a commitment. For the fireworks show, the last few years, we've always had entertainment. For many years, there was a concert. The concert really wasn't, prior to the fireworks, really wasn't well attended. 2 and 3 years ago, I had a Dixieland band, which I thought was fun. They wandered around, but you couldn't really hear them too well because they were portable. Last year, we had the police bagpipes group. They were good, but once again, if you weren't nearby, you couldn't hear them. I've contacted this group. It's called the Victory Bells. There are 3 ladies. They come dressed like, in patriotic
Andrews Sisters.
garb, like the Andrews Sisters, and they sing patriotic songs. We'll have the county showmobile, so they'll be up there. We'll have a sound system, so they'll be heard. And they'll go probably from 8:30 to 9:15, and the fireworks usually start around 20 after 9.
And people get antsy around that time.
People get antsy anyway, so I just wanted to throw this at you, and if you have any thoughts about it. I think it's
I could never make it to the concert. I don't know anybody who went over there.
Do you make the fireworks?
Yeah, always.
Okay. Well, they start coming in around 8:30, so it's silly to do anything before that. I think this will add to the ambience of the event.
Give it a try.
It'll be paid for out of Tenafly Presents, which is all made with sponsorships, so
Yeah.
it won't hurt, other than what we normally take out of the budget, it's not gonna add to it. Okay, anybody have any questions about the consent agenda, the resolutions?
Yeah, I have to say something. We went and met with the Board of Health. And the Board of Health basically was very critical about our immunization program. The immunization program that Midbergen is presenting right now is something that's like 10 years old when we didn't have the...
Is this on the resolutions?
Yeah, it is, because
Where?
we're gonna have to approve the resolution of the Midbergen.
Excuse me, the flu shots are not done by Midbergen, they're done
Yeah.
by HARP.
Yeah, which we have to approve the resolution too.
Where is that?
Let me finish, and you're gonna, so
Well,
the
I'm just
whole point
curious,
was...
is that this is the appropriate time to do it. I don't see anything about flu shots on the resolution.
No, it's not. It's part of the HARP.
Because it's part of HARP. HARP doesn't just do flu shots. HARP is a
Let me finish, and you're gonna
year-round
find out why.
health program.
Basically, what they were trying to do is see if we can move this HARP part of it, because they were talking about people, for example, in other towns, they got Rite Aid to come in, and they did that basically for everybody, not only for the senior people, but everybody, because now, according to the new insurance law, Obamacare, all the flu shots are free, and everybody should be able to benefit from that.
They're not free.
Where do you get them
Yes.
free?
They're not,
All the insurances
excuse
of
me,
the
they're
Obamacare
not
cover.
free, Max. And we had this discussion every
We didn't have
single
this discussion
year.
and they are free.
We have.
Under
I
Obamacare.
have the exact same information that I presented in 2014.
I'm telling you what the Board of
and
Health has discussed.
No, it's not that it's free. It's that Obamacare requires people to have insurance.
And the insurance covers that.
Excuse me, but it doesn't, you keep acting like there's no cost to it. They charge more than we do.
Who's they?
They is CVS, which charges $31.99 for standard. They charge
Okay, so that's
$37 for
that's
bright.
why-
We charge $20 and we charge $25 for quite.
Jules, you don't
They
wanna
charge
listen.
more than we do.
Jules,
I
you
do.
don't want to listen. Just listen for a second. Rite Aid was brought in other towns. Let me finish and you're going to
Okay.
be hysterical after that.
Excuse me, I am not hysterical.
Okay, but let me finish then. So, Rite Aid was brought in other towns. Everybody got basically flu shots, and they basically paid with their insurance, and they didn't get to pay a penny. And now Maria Xalas, who is part of is looking to make sure that if we can do the same thing, the Board of Health would like to have the vaccination not only for the seniors, but for everybody else in town who can come in, and they bring in the insurance, and everybody can get.
That's
well,
not
hold on a second.
accurate.
Have they made any sort of arrangement with anybody?
No, because we just brought it. They just brought it up at the meeting that we
All right,
just
so
had 2 weeks
let them
ago.
come back with a proposal from
Yeah.
Rite Aid or CVS that coincides with what you're saying. I think
Okay.
you're gonna
Because-
find out that
No,
it's
that's
not
fair.
Well,
accurate.
That's fair.
but Max, what you're saying is not even accurate. So you're trying to make a case for something based on misinformation.
It's
We
not-
know what the pharmacies charge. They charge far more than we do.
Well,
You also have made the statement that they service everybody. So do we. We don't exclude individuals. We don't exclude
charge them
adults.
$20.
Could you wait a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, we charge $20 for employees who are interested, and that is basically as a ancillary service. Anybody in the borough of Tenafly can walk into CVS or Walgreens or Rite Aid or Major or Walmart or Sam's Club or Kroger or Target. If other communities are doing that, that's because they, for whatever reason, have decided not to have any alternative. We have alternatives.
All right, so
We have a very, very robust and a very effective year-round adult health program.
But Jewel, so if CVS wants to offer this program, it can be offered simultaneously with what we do.
Sure,
Nobody has to
absolutely.
come, so nobody's saying don't do it.
Yeah, no,
They
that's
can
why
go
they
to
say-
CVS.
I would be interested in finding out what the program is. The only one of those companies that's in Tenafly is CVS. I know I know there's signs at the CVS
Yeah.
up in Cresskill. I'm not sure that I've ever seen the signs in
They are
Tenafly.
free
So-
flu shots.
They're not free.
All right, well,
For insurance.
I would ask that you go get a flu shot and let me find it. I would
I
be
just got
curious. And they didn't charge you.
No, it's free with the insurance. Obamacare requires that all preventive vaccinations are free.
Okay.
So last week I got it.
I'll go tomorrow, and if I get a free one, I'll let you know.
Ours are free as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we're doing here does not preclude CVS from.
Exactly, but
Okay.
I just wanted, because it's regarding and they were trying to see if they can segregate that part from the program, if we can get free vaccination
No,
for
it's
everybody.
part of the overall contract, and it has been for.
Let
many,
CVS
many
do what they
years.
got to do, and we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll be
The
curious
other
to
thing
see.
you have to consider is that, you're talking about picking and choosing among for-profit businesses. CVS is not here just out of the goodness of their heart. They're looking for customers. They offer coupons and all types of sales
Well,
incentives.
We're not.
But I'm
this
telling
is-
you, but that's
this
part
isn't-
of their
but
program.
I understand that, but this isn't a competition. We're not competing with CVS.
Correct.
If CVS wants to offer it to everybody at a better price, that would be wonderful.
People can go to their
Okay, but
doctors,
I
they can
don't-
come to us,
We
they
have
can
this
go to
program, we're not
CVS.
gonna preclude this program either. So, anything else on the resolutions? Okay, Anybody have anything for the good of the order, or for old or new business, Tony? And
I've actually got three things that are good of the order, which, first of all, there's three resolutions that I'd like to see us put forth. The first one is, I went to the Board of Education and I asked them to do the same thing, that we put a restriction and mandate that hoverboards are forbidden on borough property and forbidden in inside borough buildings. For the reasons being, hoverboards have been known to cause numerous fires. Actually, there was one in Bergenfield over the holidays. Numerous kids have been getting hurt on hoverboards because they're not wearing the correct personal protective equipment. And I'm just concerned, especially with the youth center. They bring in those hoverboards and they charge it and it starts a fire. We got a problem.
Two questions, Tony.
Airlines have forbidden them.
Two questions for what you're saying.
airlines.
One is, the fires all take place when they're being charged.
No, absolutely not.
No?
No.
Some,
Both and charged and also when they're not being charged. Both.
okay. Are you saying that they're charging the hoverboards inside the youth center?
No, well, I don't know if they are. I'm saying I'm trying to
I thought that's
stop
what you
that.
said.
My point is that, I know that they were bringing them to the schools, and I could almost imagine that they were probably bringing them to the youth center. I'm trying to stop it at the pass before we get to that.
Hold on.
Okay.
Bill, do we have the ability to regulate hoverboards outside our own property?
Outside of our property?
Yeah.
Well, on public streets, you could.
No, I'm talking about public, borough-owned property. That's all I'm saying about it.
So you're talking about a borough hall?
Borough hall.
But you're not talking about streets?
No, not
Or
streets.
what about sidewalks?
No, not at all. I'm just talking about borough-owned property.
Right, and again, obviously, with respect to places other than, inside, like Borough Hall or inside buildings, you certainly can. But you can impose reasonable restrictions on terms of.
I don't know that we, the borough, own a building that's conducive to hoverboarding inside.
Yeah, but I'm talking about they bring them into, let's say they bring them into use and they put it on charge.
Are you saying using or just?
No, not using.
In other words, you're not allowed to bring a hoverboard inside.
Let me check with Mark Slauson and see if there's.
Well, if the kids have a hoverboard and they want to go into the youth center, what are they going to do? Leave it outside where it could be stolen? I would tell you this much: Mark Slauson is not going to allow anybody to use a hoverboard inside. Now, whether he allows them to, we could ask him or
Yeah,
tell
but
them.
it also would be wise for us to say they're not allowed to use them on borough property if it's coming to find out these kids are getting hurt. And so why would we want to condone? I don't understand.
No, I have no problem, Mark. Yeah, and then
So
Max.
it's just to, sorry, me first, or?
Yeah,
You go first.
You go
So
first.
it's just to, my son got a hoverboard for Christmas, okay? And to your point, and to your question, Mayor, about can you use them inside? A room this size, 3 10-year-olds can play all day long on hoverboards. You don't need a lot of space to have fun.
I'm just not.
I've never seen
I don't
them.
envision hoverboards being used inside any of our space.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I think the question of are they being charged at the teen center?
Well, and I don't think we need an ordinance. We could just let Mark
just a
know
rule,
that the
yeah.
policy is there should not be any charging of hoverboards inside the youth center.
Right, you wouldn't let someone ride the bicycle in the youth center, right?
Right. We don't have a law against it.
Right,
We just common sense.
common
So
sense.
the question is, because I was brought out, some people in Tenafly told me, are we gonna allow hoverboards on the sidewalk where they can run into people, run them over and stuff like that? That would be something that can be discussed, and we have the ability to kind of regulate that, if that's what we want.
I just want to let you know, there are some cities and some towns that have passed a resolution that they're not allowed to be used, period, in that city or that town. I'm telling you for a fact.
So it has to be like on public property or something, like,
I'm telling you.
you can't say you can't use it in
Well,
the house.
Yeah,
frankly,
can't imagine that's very
I don't
possible.
necessarily think. I don't think that hoverboard should be allowed on sidewalks in Washington or West Railroad in the business district. But on the other hand, I also don't think bicycles should be allowed on those sidewalks, or even skateboards on the sidewalks downtown. I don't think hoverboards are any less or more dangerous to pedestrians than skateboarders or bicyclists. People just don't expect that when you're walking out of a store or walking down a sidewalk. But whether we want to, regulate that or not, but I'm not sure that like I said, hoverboards are any more of a danger to pedestrians than skateboarders or bicycles on sidewalks.
All right, my next item that I'd like for this council to go forth with for a resolution is that there's a strong contingent of people in the borough of Tenafly that want to name the borough track. And they would like to name it the Bob Waterman track. And Bob Waterman was a track coach in Tenafly, as well as a gym coach in Tenafly for many, many, many years. He was one of the most respected track coaches in actually the county, for that matter, in the state of New Jersey. And I think it would go a long way if this council was to support that movement of naming the track the Bob Waterman track.
I would suggest that if people are so inclined, they, as individuals, sign the petition. I thought I signed it, but the last time I looked, I didn't see my name on it. As a mayor and as council people, we also have the right. I would be very reluctant to put any sort of pressure on the Board of Education to name their facility as a body. I don't think that's our business. It's a separation. How would you feel if the Board of Education told us to do something with one of our properties? And I think we'd be rightfully a little indignant. So
it's a matter of supporting it. It's not
well,
a matter
I
of,
would say, then I would
please.
suggest that the 7 of us, if you feel inclined, sign that petition. And I think it's going to happen whether we move forward or not. I hope it does.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I've seen the names on that petition, and it's the who's who of people that have been involved in sports in Tenafly and beyond that. So
So I have a question. So, I'm in support of suggesting that it be named after Waterman, but do we have a sense of where the Board of Ed is on it?
no.
Right now, the Board of Education is, they have a committee established to look at it from a cost-effective measure as to whether or not, right now, the Board of Education is looking possibly naming, does Nike want to come in and
So they'll get sponsorship.
and make it the
They'll
Nike
get
track and then
sponsorship.
have a sponsorship. So
Money.
they're looking at that right now, so.
Okay,
we'll
so
see.
we compete with money.
Well, we'll see. My last one is, at the reorg meeting, I promised Senator Weinberg that this council would support and go forth with a resolution indicating that we are not satisfied with the public transportation in the state of New Jersey, and for that matter, Tenafly and Bergen County, and that the deplorable conditions of the Port Authority complex in New York City, that we are 100% in support of building a new complex. I think it would go a long way, and the senator herself recommended that we do that because it just adds more teeth.
I think that's an excellent idea.
I'll second
I
that
have
one.
no problem with
Yeah.
it.
Lisette, do you want to write it? You want me to write it?
Maybe they have a template that other towns.
I'm sure they do.
Uh,
Yeah.
Would you
I'll
want to reach
email
out to
Debbie.
Senator Weinberg's office and see if they have a template?
I'll email Debbie.
But it's a resolution we want to get.
Resolution.
Yeah, it's a resolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Is that it?
Thank you.
That's all.
I have something for you.
No, go ahead, Max. You go first this time.
Okay, for the good of the order, or the old business, whatever, remember the resolution that we have with the liquor stores, the 21, that we need to put signs and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
are we
because-
moving along with that? Aren't we moving that
That's why
forward?
we know, where is it?
Oh, we're talking about for,
They're requiring that basically the liquor store owners that sell the
Cigarettes.
the cigarettes, I'm sorry, have to put the sign in showing that it has to be over 21, and they have to display that.
yeah, I have to do that.
Okay, so
Could we get that
And
done?
I didn't do that yet, but
Please.
quite
That's
frankly, I
important.
forgot about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
I
Bill.
went
I
into
did.
a place that sells cigarettes, and the guy asked me, what's the, the guy that's
yeah,
responsible for one of the people selling cigarettes, he asked me, what is the age in Tenafly?
What is the status of the state's proposed bill?
We passed 21, right?
No,
No,
we did,
the
but the
state-
state
We
was
did.
looking at doing
The
it
state was looking
statewide.
at doing it, but
It was vetoed.
it was vetoed? Okay.
So it's good to know that people that are selling cigarettes don't know.
Isn't that a shock? A bill gets vetoed in the state of New Jersey. Oh, that's a shock.
And we're talking about the borough bearing the cost of the signs?
yes.
Yeah, we would.
For how
Who else
many
would buy it?
businesses?
Who else would do it?
Cap.
There can't be that
Yeah,
many
fine.
businesses. You're only talking,
Well, that's not true.
That's
I
not
can
true.
name every gas station sells cigarettes.
no.
They don't?
Absolutely not.
Yes, they do.
No, maybe you'll just Abaco, that's it.
No.
BP.
BT,
No.
BT also
not.
sells.
Bob has
CP
one.
sells
You can
cigarettes.
get cigarettes
Yeah.
anywhere.
Valero has them, yeah.
Anywhere.
I think we should at least look into what the financial impact is.
Yeah, how much do you
Don't
think
they possibly
a
cost
sign will
for
cost?
signs?
Well, CVS doesn't sell them anymore.
No.
No.
So maybe it's just BP and
7-Eleven.
Lazzaro's.
7-Eleven
sells
sells cigarettes.
Does 7-Eleven sell cigarettes?
There's a lot of
Lazzaro's?
places.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of places that sell
The
cigarettes.
radio store
No,
next to
not
CVS
so
used to
fast.
sell
Stop and Shop sells them?
Does I don't.
Yeah.
do they
Yeah,
sell-
and the
Stop
one
and Shop
behind
sells
the
it.
Stop and Shop, the one behind it.
Well, the
That-
Super Shop is closed.
Okay, good.
Well, that's not.
Because that's where the kids were going to.
No,
get.
look, first of all,
In the 90s.
the signs aren't that.
We're not saying, we're just saying that you shouldn't pass an ordinance without knowing what
Yeah, no,
the
she's right.
What
the
the cost is
financial
gonna be.
impact
What
is.
if Congress, yeah. So how much is a
It's
sign?
one of the things you're signing off on as
Yeah,
as the borough attorney.
I know,
That
but-
we've done our fiscal due diligence.
So how much is a sign?
If you know it's not gonna cost that much money.
Yeah.
Right, well, let's get an estimate of how much.
Wait, we're talking about a sign or a sticker?
Signs. Signs saying over there, you know, the age for, buying cigarettes is 21 in Tenafly.
Wait, why would that be up to us, not the vendor?
I'm sorry?
The vendor gets the stickers and the signs.
That's stickers.
When you go to a cigarette store, it says, card, you must be blank, blank, blank age and a calendar.
If
Sorry?
that's the
I
state,
have one
which
thing
is
for old
18,
business.
we
Okay.
moved up to 21.
It's not getting any younger either, is it?
Yeah. but
Okay,
they-
let's move on.
But are we still in good of the order? Because
Yeah.
I have something for the good of the order. And normally I was giving this little speech, once a year when councils changed, but I forgot about it, and I'm prompted by, I was approached by a citizen about last meeting. And I have to give this speech again. And really, I have to say, it comes from a comment you made, Max, and someone misunderstanding something. We have a council now, and I started doing this when we had one party basically controlling the council. We all know that we have to abide by the Open Public Meetings Act. So we shouldn't give the suggestion that borough business is being done outside of the chambers here. Someone got that impression and called me on it and complained, and saying, business is being done outside, and how could they do this? And it really arose out of something you said.
Yeah, the Democrats.
And I don't think you meant that.
Yeah.
I think you really meant something different, but it came out sounding like, and so and I wish Sean was here, because Sean actually was here when I first made this speech a long time ago, when it would turn to like all Democrats. Borough business can't be discussed outside of a public meeting by more than a meeting attended by more than 3. And since now you've become a little more active in the party and a lot more is going on, you shouldn't give the impression, no one should give the impression to
Well, it
the
shouldn't be
public,
done to make
particularly.
an impression.
Well, it shouldn't be done at all, obviously, but it shouldn't be suggested that, because then people hear that and they say, well, how come we couldn't hear? We're not there. We like to go and listen. And I said, I'm sure that's not happening, but I will make that speech again. I promised I would make it. And
I'm going to answer that because we discussed it with our lawyer. The issue of caucusing in the parties is an issue that has been done for years. The Democrats are doing, the Republicans are doing. They're caucusing to discuss a certain position, and has been approved by the Supreme Court because it is basically a right of the party to do so. And based on the caucus, you basically get an opinion of the party. When we have a meeting with the Democratic Party, we ask for what is the position on the issues that basically affect Tenafly. And the people that are at the meeting will tell you what is the position that they want to hear from the party regarding the actual issues that affect Tenafly, and they are allowed to do so. And it's not a violation of open at-meeting caucusing in the open meeting. It's not that we are meeting specifically on that one. and that we basically check with our lawyer, and that's allowed.
Max,
Yeah,
you know,
look,
hold on 1 second. I am very tired of you arguing with our professionals.
Yes.
Okay? You don't have a clue about what you're talking about.
I think I
If
do.
I know that's the part of the problem.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to 6 or 12 or 20 people of the Democratic Committee about an issue, you can,
Yeah.
as long as no more than 3 of them sit at this table. That is the law,
Yeah.
and that is the law. And if you don't believe our attorney, ask Senator
Ask him
Weinberg.
about caucus.
Okay,
Yeah.
political caucusing on broad issues,
That's right.
not specific issues of plans to take action, is not prohibited.
Exactly.
Okay, for broad political type issues and approaches.
Which is what we discussed.
As long as it doesn't focus on specific borough business.
Exactly. And it
of
doesn't
things that
discuss actions.
we have a plan to do something that would result in action for specific business of the borough, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But talking about fiscal responsibilities
Exactly.
and things like that,
And
those are
what do we wanna
broad
do for
political
the
issues,
senior?
but
You know, don't try and whitewash what your statement is.
I'm
Bill.
not, I'm saying,
That is
I'm
exactly
saying,
what you're doing. Nobody is talking about policy in general. You know that, and I know that.
I'm not
And I'm not even
suggesting-
there.
no, I'm not suggesting that that would be okay. I'm saying explaining
Yeah.
what Max said in terms of caucusing.
But that's not
That's
what Max. That's not what Max said
Yeah.
at the last meeting. He
Yes,
didn't
well,
talk about
that's- we
caucusing.
discussed-
He didn't talk about broad. He talked about specifics. And that, and he is. If he is going to turn a deaf ear to that, then you need to be a little bit stronger. There are 6 members of the council that are on the Democratic Committee, and there are certain things that they cannot do when there's more than 3 of them. If there's 20 people on the committee and only 3 of them are council people, that's fine. When there's 6 of them, there are guidelines, and no attorney that knows what they're talking about is going to say, don't worry about those
So
We
when
guidelines.
we
can't
discuss the
discuss
platform-
borough business.
Now, when we discuss the platform,
Right.
we discuss what we want to do with the senior people. We want to discuss.
Well,
we
that's specific things.
Yeah,
that really
well,
should be
we want to
discussed at this
basically
table.
support the senior people. That's basically with all the. We want to discuss basically what we want to do to protect the environment, because that's a democratic issue, and those things are basically not. We specifically don't say we're going to put this in on the council. We're not going to discuss anything regarding what we want to vote, but we're going to build a platform, and that's what we're doing. Basically saying this is the democratic platform, and this is what we believe that it should be in Tenafly, what the Democrats want to do for Tenafly.
As soon as you bring up what we want to do in Tenafly, you're
Yes.
breaking the law.
I don't think so.
Well, your opinion has no value to it.
No,
I'm
but I don't
sorry.
know about it.
You should listen to the
He
borough
said that we
attorney.
can caucus and we can then discuss large
Well, that's
issues.
because his semantics are not what they should be.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Listen, if you said we want to focus on environmental issues without talking about anything specifically, that would be permissible.
yeah,
But,
we know that. We had a lawyer, we discussed
but
this.
saying we want to, this is what we should do with Fister's Pond, that's certainly not,
You're right.
not permissible.
What I said is somebody brought it up, and I brought it up to the council.
New business?
Please.
I was at the,
Oh, wait, if this is new, he has old.
old first, no,
business,
you're a lot older than me, so.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so old business, community center, we finally have our list of initial members of the committee, which Lizette was kind enough to email to everyone today. I accidentally left off the names of 2 individuals, David Singh and Michelle Marchant, who will be on the committee also.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
David Singh.
Yeah, so they're both on. My question is, do we need to take any action since this is an ad hoc committee? Or Max and I, we're going to schedule the date of the first meeting in February and go from there based on what we talked about previously? Okay, very good. That was all I had.
Tony?
I attended the Board of Education meeting, the last one, and the president of mini basketball addressed the board under new business, and he stated that the conditions at the schools were unsafe for our kids to play mini basketball. To the point he said that kids are getting concussions, kids are falling on the floor, kids are running into the poles and walls. And of course, there was a bit of a tit for tat back and forth, saying, well, the Biddy basketball, well, they've got this enormous amount of money in their fund that they should kick in some monies. There's two things that I'm very concerned with. Number one, if what he's saying is true to fact, why did the Recreation Commission, why are they not privy to this and are on top of investigating these allegations?
Well,
because if that's the
the
case,
answer
then
to-
there's
good
something,
question.
it's got to be addressed.
The answer to that is very simple, because Biddy basketball did not bring that to the table.
Right.
Okay,
that's what-
Biddy,
that's what-
it's Tenafly youth basketball, Biddy,
That's right.
you're showing our age.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tenafly youth basketball, they
basketball, okay.
emailed me, and I spoke to the president, and then I spoke to Buildings and Grounds Director, and he assured me that they had a flooring guy coming in to check the floors, and then I bumped into him at the high school. He assured me that they had done some work on it, and I spoke to the president, and he seemed okay, everything is okay. Then last week I got another email that it's terrible again. So I don't know where they're
Well,
standing.
his presentation, Peter, at the Board of Ed meeting, I will tell you, opened a lot of eyes, especially on the board, and certainly from my eyes, I'm thinking, and he, and then their question, and then we started mentioning that, one of the kids had got a concussion, and he started, and I'm thinking,
But just keep in
oh, for the
mind,
love of
first of
God,
all,
here we
the
go.
gyms are used more by the schools than by youth basketball. So if they're not safe, they're not safe. But, and it's behooves the schools to keep them safe. And as far as I can tell, they've always been cooperative. I don't understand where all of a sudden this is coming from. I really don't. And I'm not saying that it's safe or it's not safe. I have no way of knowing. But, they've never brought it to the rec board, which is why the rec board hasn't been involved. So,
Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't feeling very warm and fuzzy with the response from the Board of Education, because, if somebody comes to us and says, the roads out here are a tripping hazard, well, Jul's gonna have somebody look into it didn't seem like there was like any, okay, maybe we should go and examine and look at them. It was like,
from a chronological perspective, I think the meeting that you're talking about took place. I also got the email. After that meeting, I did speak with Buildings and Grounds. They brought a flooring guy in, and then I saw Tom Lepore, who's the director. He said that they did a process on the floors. The president of the board said it looks like it's okay. Then I got the last
Right,
email.
she had concerns, that's all.
And I asked the president to call me. I never heard back from him. So I don't know where it's.
When did you get this email?
no, I was at the board meeting,
What's
Okay.
Biddy
and
basketball?
he stood up and
It's recreational.
started listing all these things, and I'm thinking,
They are, Max,
I'll bring it up the next board
they
meeting.
are
Talk about it.
co-sponsored
What's
with
going
us,
on.
which
Right.
puts a little
Yep.
responsibility on us.
absolutely.
But the facilities they play in are all
Yeah,
Board of
Board
Ed
of Ed.
facilities. I'm sorry that Sam left. He was here a moment ago to do the Bob Waterman thing. Is that it, Tony?
Yeah, just,
I would
Should
like
follow up.
to ask Lisette to put this under, to be considered at the next meeting, and I want everybody to think about this, and that would be Nicoresco Park. Working with Karen Noose, and I've asked Paul Keys to get involved. Paul helped design Hyler Park. But there's first of all, we all agreed about a statue. We all agreed that we want this park to take place. There's no funding for it, okay? And one of the sources we could use is the open space funds. So the question that I want to throw out, and I'd like to discuss it at the next work session, is does the council agree that it would be an appropriate use of the open space money? And we're not probably talking to do everything, no more than $100,000 for the statue and a redesign and landscaping of that oval. We all agree that it needs to be done, and if we can't use open space funds, we're gonna have to find money in the budget. And I don't think that's the best alternative. Dan?
So the environmental committee is very protective of that fund, like very, very protective.
Mhm.
I think you should float that by them
Okay.
as well, so you
We
don't
can
get
do
any-
that.
environmental committee is protective of what fund?
Open space.
Open Space Trust Fund.
They're very particular about that fund.
Oh, really?
In general, yeah. Very, very adamant. To our meetings.
Oh, Dan, when is their next meeting?
I just missed it last Thursday, so next
So it's a month.
Yeah.
I heard though that they were so adamant about it that the chairman declared that that was a null and void subject and that it was never to be raised again.
Yeah, to our meetings.
Well, tell them by cleaning up that property, it's gonna help the environment tremendously.
I mean, if you never know, if you're spending it on something to make it nicer.
Well, it's our decision, but once again, as you'll find on the Board of Health, if we make decisions about things that, they get upset if they're not consulted.
No, that we should
And
consult,
rightfully
no
so.
question.
I mean, Oresco Park covers all the three key items, open space, historic, and recreation.
Well,
It's just not a more accurate,
I don't know about recreation, it would be a
Potential-
passive park, I think. at best.
it's still a park,
But
right?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
something
It's
we
a
need to
recreation
discuss.
space.
And I think that's one of the things that we need to take into account, that this is as much supportive of historic preservation as it is recreation.
Right, that's,
And that is one of the named activities
that's
in the
my
title.
point about the three topics.
All right. Okay, that's it. Unless anybody else, anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the work session. We'll meet inside and take a 2-minute break.
So
in case
moved. So
anybody
moved.
needs to take a 2-minute break.
I think that the historic preservation.
We have a short.
Really, they have.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby at the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Here.
Councilmember Bash?
Here.
Councilmember Park?
Here.
Councilmember Zina?
Here.
Mayor Rustin?
Here. Revisions to the agenda?
None.
Minutes to be approved. January 12th, the closed session, and January 12th, the regular meeting. Please, a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And once again, to the clerk and her office, thank you for such wonderful service on the minutes. Public comments? Anybody care to speak on any item?
Johanna Gambro, 15 Ravine Road. I have 5 quick items. I had nothing in my mind for tonight till I heard what was going on in the meeting. So I'll try to be as quick as possible. About the ad hoc committee for the community center, at several meetings, especially the one at the senior center, I mentioned that it was disturbing that the ad hoc committees are always secret. And I was told at the time that anyone could go to the meeting. So I would like to know when the meetings are, and I would like to go. That was what was said at the senior center. You said it.
Do you want me to respond to that right now, or are you going to finish speaking first?
Well, I'm just making the comment that you said
Sure.
that in your speech
Sure.
at the senior center. I would like to know when they are, where they are, and I would like to go.
Sure. Well, so the dates of the meetings will be public, and you're welcome to attend.
Okay, thank you. Second, I was at the Democratic Committee meeting. I am not a member, but I was there. I'm a Democrat. And I can tell you that public policy and all of the things that you mentioned are not to be discussed at a meeting were not discussed. It was just a very broad sort of what is our mission statement. I was there. So I don't understand people who were not at the meeting making a comment about what was said at the meeting. And the people who were there can back me up on that. The hoverboards. You know that I have spoken about this. Everyone has seen the pictures on TV about the hoverboards catching on fire while kids are using them in stores, outside. When they are charged, there's a point at which they might catch on fire. Who knows when that point is? Nobody knows. They're dangerous. And by the way, I watched a Board of Education meeting, and Lynn Traeger said that they have banned hoverboards, the use of hoverboards on school property. They are not allowed to bring them to school. They are not allowed to put them in their lockers. That is done. And I don't, for the life of me, understand why this is even an issue. It's a safety issue. And by the way, there is an ordinance in Tenafly, and I checked on this, about in the business district, Washington Street, Railroad Avenue, there is already an ordinance, not enforced, but there is an ordinance about skateboards, about scooters. There's one other thing that they ban. Things on wheels.
Bicycles.
What?
Bicycles.
Bicycles, thank you very much. This is already an ordinance on the books in Tenafly. It is not enforced. Do you know what it's like to walk down the street on Washington Avenue and have kids who don't care two hoots about if anybody's in front of them, biking by as fast as possible? Do you think anybody wants to go downtown if that's the way it's going to be? And people talk about it. The customers talk about it. The store owners talk about it. And why, in other towns I've seen this, there is a sign. They're not afraid. They're not afraid to put a sign up and say, no bicycles, no scooters, no skateboards, when it is an ordinance, and they'll list the ordinance. What's wrong with Tenafly? Why are we so shy about that? Are we afraid of the parents? What is that? I don't know. I'd like to know. And the Oresco Park, here we go again, giving, without, I guess, involving other people, saying, oh, Paul Keyes would be a good person to have to do the park. Are there other people that you can consider and submit? They can submit how much it's going to cost? I don't understand that. And then the last thing is, I still am confused about why, when someone who was not at that Democratic meeting seems to know what went on at that Democratic meeting, I'd like to know what goes on at the Tenafly First PAC. It's advertised as discussing issues in Tenafly. That's discussing issues. It's a secret meeting. You have to be invited, but it's the mayor's essentially political party. It's not called that, but that's what it is, and we all know it. It's not a secret. So this business about the Democratic Party discussing things, just forget that. That's a non-issue. And I don't think anybody in this town wants to hear about that. And that's all I have to say.
Anybody else from the public here to speak? Okay, we'll close the public comment section. A motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh,
Roll
call roll,
call.
please. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the public hearings. Max, do you want to read the first one?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
I just lost it. Just give me a second.
Take your time.
Yes. Ordinances 16-01 and 16-02. The following ordinances published herein were first read by title only on January 12, 2016, and posted on the bulletin board of the lobby of the municipal center. Do I read the ordinances, or you
No,
wanna
you just
read them?
make the motion, then I read them.
Okay, I make the motion to approve ordinance in 16-01 and 16-02.
Second.
Consent, please.
Ordinance number 16-01, an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Tenafly entitled Alcoholic Beverage Control, and more particularly amending Section 6-4 Regulation of Licenses. Ordinance number 16-02, bond ordinance supplementing Section 3F of bond ordinance number 14-08, finally adopted on April 29, 2014, as supplemented by bond ordinance number 15-02, finally adopted on February 24, 2015, providing for the construction of a new public works building by the Borough of Tenafly by appropriating an additional $50,000 therefore and authorizing the issuance of an additional $47,500 in bonds or notes of the borough to finance the cost thereof.
Any public comment on either of these two ordinances? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Thank you. I lost my place.
Committee report.
I'm sorry?
Committee report.
Committee reports. Dan, you have anything?
No, I do not.
Mark?
Yes, I'd just like to report that the Chamber of Commerce had a very nice dinner for Dr. Kay, celebrating her years as an educator. We had that last week at the Clinton Inn, and I know there were a whole bunch of pictures of the event in 201 magazine or Bergen.com. So went off very well.
Tony, you have anything?
As I'm not sure if I'll be at the next meeting, so it won't give me the opportunity first to thank Christine for all of her efforts to publicize on February the 3rd at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to be giving a presentation on emergency preparedness at the Clinton Inn. And she has put some different signs around, just showing, actually I'll be wearing these shorts at the event. I'm not sure what color yet, so I'll decide when
Are you wearing them now?
Well, I'll show you later, okay?
Too much information.
Too much information. But, I really want to thank her. She's really gone above and beyond the call of duty to help and make this become a reality as far as getting people to listen to this very important topic. So thank you.
And don't forget, this will be recorded and played on
That is
Channel
correct.
77.
That is correct.
For those of us that can't get to that
Correct.
meeting, you'll be able to watch it on TV.
That's correct.
Hopefully, it'll be a lead-in to our council meetings, and this way the ratings will go up. Max, you have anything?
I discussed most of the issues that we discussed in the Board of Health, but I want to discuss some other issues that were raised. One of them is that during the inspection of a few buildings or properties that have been abandoned, we found out there some of the people over there need social help. And they were asking if there is any type of social help that is available right now for those people, because they live in, old people live in dilapidated building, they have cats and dogs and stuff, and it seems that they're very difficult even when the inspector goes over there trying to talk to them to communicate. And I told them that according to the new rules, all the social help that we have is right now with the county. It has been moved from the borough to the county, but one of the proposal was that the senior Senate committee, they're looking to have somebody part-time in order to have that type of help. And they wanted to know when and how and so on. And I told them that I will inform as soon as we discuss our budget and make decision on that. And the rest of them was discussed about the vaccines that they want to go they're gonna bring in somebody from, if they can, from Rite Aid to see if they can do vaccination for free for everybody, and they will discuss that after that.
That's it, thank you.
Peter, if I can just ask a question, is there any way that we can find out as a council, like last meeting I brought up about the Stop and Shop, and then you told us what, the beautifications that are gonna happen there. But it would be nice if we knew that, like the old, I can't think of the name of the place behind the super shop there, that building's, I don't even, people ask me, like, what's gonna happen there? I don't have a clue, but it'd be nice if we
There was an application before the planning board, and I believe that Councilman Zinna reported on this application, you might not have been at the meeting, where they're going to renovate, what was presented to us was they're going to renovate the first floor and turn it into 2 units, businesses, I guess, whether it's a super shop or offices or something like that. And the second floor, I think, would be 2 apartments.
2 one-bedroom apartments.
Yeah, but do we know what, the point is, do we know what the businesses are? Do we know?
No, they didn't.
Not at this point, no.
They didn't know it?
No, so they would have to come before the planning board for a change of use or, I guess a change of use, but assuming that it's a acceptable or approved use for that zone, they would need only to get approval for the change of use, right, Bill?
Yes. Well, no.
Right, if it's
Change of
Well, right, it used to be a...
as long as it's a permitted use.
As long as it's a permitted use, yes.
Right, for instance, if someone opened a restaurant on each side, they'd be able to do that. It was already a permitted use there.
Yeah, or a daily or
Right, and if
something.
it was a
It's a
use,
change of use, though.
no. If it's a change of use.
Right.
Then,
That's a difference.
but a permitted use.
Right, a permitted use is-
Change to a new permitted use, the planning board.
Correct.
application. But if it's, obviously, if it's a use that's not permitted, that's going to the Board of Adjustment.
Right.
But didn't we put past an ordinance that if there is a permitted use, you don't have to go through the planning board?
If it's a permitted use that was pre-existing.
Pre-existing?
Yeah,
Like if it's a
pre-existing.
deli, they don't have to go through the planning board or anything.
If they were to open up another super shop, yes, they would not need to go anywhere, just pick up a permit.
Right.
But if they want to do a flower shop, or they want to do anything else that would be a permitted use, but it's a new use, they'd have to get a change of use permit.
Thank you.
A different category of use, yeah. Right.
It's not something that would normally be turned down.
Yeah. I thought we passed a resolution.
Yeah, I think-
For permitted use, they can go directly without the planning board. I
Yeah,
thought.
Bill, excuse me, Mayor, I think Bill just clarified it. There's a category of permitted uses. So if you're within the same category, you get
I'm not
your
sure if it's a
CO
change
and...
of use, I think you have to,
No, I
even
thought that
if
we
it's a
passed the
permitted use.
resolution.
Well, the resolutions are fine, but...
Right, it's not carte blanche.
there's
Right, it's not carte blanche,
land
right.
use ordinances that supersede the local ordinances.
Right, if it's a change of, in other words, if you were selling, yeah, it's a change of use, but if you had a retail outlet and you were selling one item and then you were selling another retail item, that's still a retail use. That wouldn't be a change of use, but let's say you allow offices and...
Yeah, that's a different story.
And medical offices and professional offices, went from a realtor to a medical office, you'd have to have a...
Yeah, no, but if he goes and sells bagels, we should be able to go.
If you sell bagels and then you went to sell cupcakes,
Yeah, that's the same.
it's the same use.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a pleasant evening.
Thanks, Lizette.
That's it, that's a change, when it's there.
Well, if